Dairy One is a collaborative project being run on the #1 dairy farm at Massey University. It's looking at creating or maintaining sustainable production within a variety of resource limits.
The project's about farming profitably and sustainably within resource limits. So those resource limits currently include environmental leaching, labour and time management, and also energy efficiency, but could include anything into the future, looking at greenhouse gases, for example. The problem at this particular site is we've got 3.5 kilometres of river frontage. We've got soils that range from generally Class 2 to Class 4. They are quite stony and quite leaky along the river tier. The modelling that we did originally with Overseer, which is the same as what the regional councils use, showed that to be compliant on some of the areas of the farm, we need to reduce our leaching by about 1/4. On other areas, it needs to be over half. So that's the big issue for us here, as a number of farmers are facing. What we did immediately is we reduced the stocking rate, the number of cows that we have on the property, from 320 down to 240 originally. We're now going back up to 260 at the moment. We changed to a once-a-day milking system. That was more around labour efficiency and around saving costs, because if we reduce our income by reducing the animals, then we need to remain profitable by either getting more out of the animals, which we're doing through breeding efficiency and feeding them better, but also through saving costs. So we did that with the once-a-day. We looked at reducing the nitrogen that we put on the land closest to the river, the more sensitive land. We took 20 hectares of that land out of production, as in permanent pasture, and put it into perennial crops. So we have around 10 hectares of lucerne, which is a legume that we don't need to put nitrogen on, and we can cut that for silage and hay and not have the animals graze on it. And we have another 10 hectares of herb pastures, of plantain and chicory mix with legumes in it. And also we graze a young stock there. We are practicing having the animals on for only a short period of time and then have them off before they do a lot of urination on the paddock. And so we're managing that land a little bit differently from the rest of the farm. We used Overseer to model the farm, and we're using that continually to model the farm as we go. Now it was never designed as a farm management tool or a farm system model, but it's sufficiently robust enough. It's the best tool we've got at hand to give us an indication of what the leaching losses are on the farm at a farm level. What we don't understand enough about is what happens to the nitrogen when it gets into below the surface of the soil. So we've got a number of studies underway here that are looking deeper than just the surface level, and certainly a lot more deeper than the modelling. And we'll use those results to inform the modelling into the future and to help ourselves, as well as other farms, as well as councils, with where the nitrogen's going and what else is going on with the nitrogen in the soil once it gets in there. The research from Massey's #4 dairy under Christine Christensen and Mike Headley showed that deferred grazing, so duration-controlled grazing, putting cows on for several hours and then standing them off somewhere, reduced the nitrate leaching from those soils by, on an average, 52% over 3 years. So that's not a quick fix. It's more of a solution and a larger solution than anything else that's been trialled. But the question is, and that's what we're going to look at here as well, if we only graze the cows for a short period of time down on the tiers close to the river, where do we stand them for the rest of the time? On other less sensitive areas of the farm would be one answer. You don't need a feed pad, you don't need a standoff pad to achieve that. So that's one of the things that we're going to be looking at. But that's a systems level answer rather than let's use a chemical or let's use a new technology to solve the problem.
What this project is trying to find out is that once the nitrogen leaves the root zone of a farm, what happens to it on its pathway from farm to the river or lake. The current management appears to be focused on identifying the intensive farms, and then measures are being taken and to reduce the nitrogen leaching from the top 60 centimeter, which we call root zone of the farm. And that is a little bit limited because it does not account that what happens to that nitrogen once it leaches from the root zone in the shallow groundwater system, depending on the hydrogeology or the condition of the subsurface groundwater. It may be reduced or it may go to the river. We don't know about that. So that's a bit of a gap in our knowledge we are trying to address. We are monitoring here the nitrogen from the surface all the way down to 9 meters. And we are sampling how the nitrogen is flowing in the system. Is it being reduced or what's the concentration is changing? With this analysis, what we are trying to understand is what's the nitrogen reduction capacity in different parts of the catchment. And we did this analysis with all this Tararua area. There are around 15 or so sub-catchments that we divide in the area. And we found that this nitrogen reduction capacity varies quite a bit from sub-catchment to sub-catchment. For example, here it can vary from 30% to all the way to 75%. So greener the area, more nitrogen reduction capacity. And that is very interesting itself because we did not know that this reduction in the underground is that variable and we are not utilizing it properly. It's because of some kind of a setting, a combination of soil type and underground rock or some carbon source, and all those conditions are different in different places. So something is going on that there is somewhere that nitrogen is being reduced and in some places it's not. So we can be very targeted in our management, and also by understanding this process we can start thinking of how we enhance this process in the subsurface environment so we can reduce the overall nitrogen load coming out of the farms to the river.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.